So let's start creating some sounds from these recordings I've made then. You can see I've made 3 separate recordings. Like I said, this took me hardly any time at all to do. The first one is actually a recording of my wife doing the washing up. This is purely ambient noise in the Hof, or the yard, just outside. Amusingly, when I shot this, all the birds stopped singing. So I got the portion where it was just complete silence, or very close to it. So that could be handy for just very subtle ambient textures. And then lastly, I took some pots and jars and just a few things from the kitchen and just hit them with something in order to record these more percussive sounds here. And then what I've done is I've gone through and I've just found particular sounds I like. So for example, say this one. And all you do is merely select that sound. And then I could use the sort of Apple-y split command, or I could just leave it selected like this, hold down the Alt key, and then just drag it out by the header there onto a separate track. So I tend to have a second audio track there, and I just pull out the bits that I want. Obviously, the advantage with actually splitting it means you can come back to it later on and remember which bit it was. Although, in live, if I keep it like this, if I zoom out, I can always see the whole audio file anyway, so live keeps it nice and straightforward there. So yeah, I pull out these different samples, and then I have them on a separate track, and then I start to work on them. So let's just show you just how easy it is to make different sounds from these recordings. So what we're going to do is make a hi-hat. And all you want really for this is some high frequency sound and ideally some transients. So I know that this washing up is all quite interesting high frequency sound. We got nice splashy noises there and scratchy kind of noises and things a little bit like shakers and high frequency percussion. So I'm just taking this bit here and hitting copy, and then on our new track, plonking it there, pasting it in. And I'll create a new audio track now, and we'll name this one hi-hat. And I'm just going to copy that down to there as well, so we'll keep the original one. And for this one, I'm just going to make sure I've got the right bit here. So there's a few different kind of interesting bits to work with here. I quite like these last two the best, I think. I can hear that sort of turning more easily into a hi-hat. This last one sounds like it would make a good obscure shaker or scratchier sound. So yeah, I think we're going to go with this one here. I'm just going to turn warp off, and I'm going to consolidate this into its own sample. So I'm going to bounce it down into a single sample here. Actually, before we do that, let's just boost it up because it's very quiet right now. Something around there should do. So I just hit Apple J there, but you can see if I right click, that's just consolidate. You know, if you're using another DAW, then it's just normally bounce in place or create new audio file from region or from this audio segment. And now we just want to shorten it down so it's just this first part here. So it only needs to be incredibly short. And we're just going to bring this right in as well. So you can hear at the moment, as we turn the level right up there, that it's just quite a noisy sound. So if we've got the first part right, we just need to then get our tail right as well. Again, I'm just going to turn off warp actually. We don't need any warping on this one. And I'm going to bring this one in and again set a fade there. Something around there. That's kind of the sound we're after. We've got a nice transient there and then a pretty fast fade out. Now for this last one, we're going to get a bit crazier. We're going to use this slightly obscure sample, which was made by hitting a jar which had something on top, which is creating this rattling. So I hit the jar, the plastic thing that was sitting on top of it started rattling, and then I put my hand on it to stop it so that it kind of stopped abruptly. It created that kind of cool sound. So what I'm going to do is copy this down onto a new audio track once again. Get completely out of the way of all the other samples. And we'll come back to this sound. Actually, no, what we'll do first, we'll just take the pitch down a bit. Take it down to about there. Just going to bring this level down so it's not kind of hitting so much at the start. And all I need to do now is I'm going to create this kind of bassy layer on the bottom. And you could do this in many, many different ways. It's not so important how you do it, but just in choosing the kind of sound you want here. So you could do it using a different sample, or in this instance, we're just going to do it by creating a MIDI track and then just using any one of the instruments in Live. I'm going to make it very simple. So you can do this at home very easily, whatever you're working with. And let's just make it a couple of sawtooths, which is the default patch anyway. I'm just going to add this MIDI clip down here, make it a couple of beats long. So we can see this up to beat 3 here. So click down here, select 2 beats. And then I'm just going to add a MIDI note anywhere for now to make it roughly the same length as the sample. And turn the level down. And yeah, I'm going to bring it down so it's in a bassier register. And what we're going to do is, not going to mess around with the settings too much. I'm going to just click on the amplitude section to change the amplitude envelope and then just bring down this release so it doesn't fade out gradually at the end. So now they're kind of synchronized, happening at the same time there. Now I could make the sound more interesting. I could also make it fully sustained. It's just fully loud across this whole part. Yeah, like I said, I could add a bit of detuning. Maybe dirty it up a little bit. Yeah, I could also add some saturation to really fatten it up. But the main thing we want to do now is have it so it's kind of moving with this sound. Now, if you've taken my Art of Filtering course, you'll have seen all about how to use filter sidechains to basically allow the filter on one particular sound to be modulated by another sound. So the way that we can kind of fuse these two parts together would be to have a filter on our bass being modulated by our original sample. So what we do is we go to the track, add auto filter, and then if we open up the sidechain section, turn it on, then we just have to choose this track as the signal to envelope modulate our filter. And we're going to make this nice and obvious for now. First of all, let's just turn off this track. turn up the gain of this one, and then turn up the envelope. And at the moment, the envelope's way too fast. So if we just bring it down to the very minimum initially, we'll at least hear the envelope triggering on each transient, but probably a bit too rapidly. So now what's happening is every time this level peaks here, you can hear the envelope shifting up and down. You can hear it more obviously because the resonance is high. So there's the filter just literally cutting out everything apart from the bass. And then as I turn the envelope modulation up, you'll hear it jumping up and reacting more to this signal. And then we just need to get the effect the way we want by bringing the frequency up to the right level, adding some resonance for some extra color. And maybe adding a bit of extra release if we want it to be a bit less rapid. Just going to add a utility on the end here to bring down the level a bit. You can see it getting a bit hot. Bring it down really extremely there. Creates the kind of effect I'm after. It's just this sort of low frequency wobbling. And if I add the EQ after there, I could also get rid of any bits I don't want. But the thing that's actually bothering me right now is this sound at the start here. Because this is such a high peak, we're getting the filter jumping up quite high, which is bringing in the transient, and I don't actually want that, I don't think. So the way I'm going to get around that is actually by applying a bit of automation. So the envelope modulation isn't so high just for this part, because you can hear if it's down at the bottom, obviously the filter's not going to jump up at all. So let's hit the A key to turn on automation, make sure we're modulating this parameter here, and just bring it down. So somewhere around there. Now let's hear it with the original sample. It's a pretty cool effect. Pretty nice.